Thanks, Stefan, also if you're in the room for inviting me. It's a big honor to have a chance to meet all of you in this conference, or the ones that chose to attend this track at least. I was asked by Stefan Moritz to mainly dive into my story, which would be focus on try to do business for a good cause, which is a very egoistic purpose of actually trying to become happy. Did you all attend Tenzin's and Jan this morning? Yeah? I'm a bit nervous because I will come back to a comparison with Dalai Lama, and it's probably the first time that everyone in the audience has another interpretation of what his messages are, with a lot higher credibility than mine. We were asked, and you've seen lots of photos, clearly quality of life. If I would interpret, if my mother would have asked me, clearly I would have pictures of my four daughters and my wife, and maybe even our rabbit and so forth. This is more connected to the conference, what I'm going to talk about here. That's why I chose it. It's about 10 years old. I'm holding a heart made out of electric wire. That was the starting point of a journey when, as Daniel said, I had decided to try to do what I think I have a talent for in order to do as much good as possible. So I'll come back to that. But I think the main message is already now that we do spend a lot of time at work. So if we do that, it's pretty important that we do something that we're good at, and if possible, we can direct our talent into a good cause, into making the world a better place, into creating quality of life. So what am I? I'm actually, if I look back, trying to present myself, I would say I've been selling things since I was very little. I sold strawberries. Actually, I started out by picking strawberries, but I was really happy being a child laborer of maybe 10 years old. I got employed by a farm to pick strawberries that they would sell. But even at the age of 10, I realized that actually lying down, picking strawberries like this all day makes your back hurt. So it was much more fun to actually resign and continue coming at the same time every morning, pick strawberries about half of the time and sell them myself rest of the day. Didn't make more money, but I had a more fun job. At the age of maybe 12, 13, we were told in school to sell those coconut things in order to be able to do a travel with the school class. So we were given boxes with 30 each of these to go out and knock on people's houses' doors and ask them to buy those 30 coconut balls. After about 3-4 doors, I realized that the replies started coming back. Oh, I would really like to. I like those, and it's great cause that you want to go on this trip with your school class. But you know, we're only 2 in this household. We can't really eat 30 of these. Which made me at the 5th door or something to change the packaging, saying that I started off trying to sell all 30, but when I heard that coming, I started saying, or you can also buy them 2 and 2. And then, of course, they were higher priced. It turned out that I had, sort of a week later, I had sold all of those coconut balls, whereas most of my schoolmates' parents have started calling our teachers saying that it's impossible to sell those 30 coconut balls. My first job was in the midst of my studies. I started at a telecommunications company as a summer job, and this is back in 1995. That was the same year that I got internet at school. I studied business administration here in Stockholm. So I could send emails all over the world for free, but during daytime I went out trying to sell international telephony. About 30% of all telephony at this point, or all traffic over the Atlantic, was fax traffic. So I thought, why don't we use the internet to do telecommunications? And we started out then in 97 with the European pioneer in IP telephony called Glocalnet. Maybe you know of a much more well-known international player called Skype. They started 6-7 years later. I can say already here that if you start 6-7 years before the one that actually wins, you're not on the leading edge. You're on the bleeding edge, and you don't want to be there. Scary ambulance. But anyway, Glocalnet that turned into become a mass challenger in the Swedish market. We became number 3 in the residential market. We IPO'd. I was a young CEO at the stock exchange. But at the end of my period as CEO, or 1 year before I resigned as CEO, then we had the dot-com crash, and all the telecommunication companies around the world, all their valuations went very much south. So we couldn't really deliver on the business plan that we had. I had to lay off 11 people in my office in Stockholm. I had to close operations in Denmark. This was the worst period of my life. I was standing in front of all of my colleagues crying, and I felt after that happened, those that remained carried me forward for the rest of the year. Eventually, we got that ship back on track, and I was able to resign. I went back to my studies, and then I realized I'm not 30, but I have started a company, I have IPO'd, I have done things that you could probably, as an entrepreneur, dream of for a lot longer than I had to do. So I wrote a thesis about things that fascinates me the most in organizations and companies, the business culture. And I wrote about a specific culture which I call belief culture, a culture where everyone feels it's not. If you would be a colleague with me, wouldn't be working in Stefan's company. You would be working in your own company. It's your baby. It's everybody's baby. So and out of that comes a tremendous strength. But however, I'm not going to talk about belief companies as the main theme. The purpose for me with writing this thesis was to try to figure out what to do with the rest of my life. So it was actually written in my thesis that self-therapy was the most important outcome, or should be. What I felt was that being 29 or something, I felt at this crossroads. The only thing that I thought and still think I have a talent for is entrepreneurship. And I had done a company and I had lots of fun, but I also had the worst year of my life behind me. But I still thought trying to build companies would be the things that I would be good at. But I had been CEO of Glocalnet, having stayed in my old student apartment, hadn't bought a car, was still biking around here in Stockholm. I knew I wasn't driven by the fact to make money in order to live a really sort of wealthy life financially. So it felt extremely empty. When I was when I was thinking about it, should I start a new company? I felt, yeah, that's what I'm good at and it's fun, but it feels empty. Why should I run companies? When I had half a glass of wine, it doesn't take more. I'm happy I wasn't with you last night. When I had half a glass of wine, I felt I'm extremely fortunate, and that's why it felt so empty to try to build more companies. If the idea about building companies would be try to make money for yourself. So I felt that, okay, I'm a Swede. Most Swedes are extremely fortunate in a global perspective. I was even sort of fortunate compared to other Swedes. So I was larger than. I was really fortunate in life. If you are really fortunate in life, I think you have an obligation to try to help those less fortunate. Maybe work on a global challenge like climate change or whatever. Do something that is much larger than yourself because you're already fortunate. But what was that? I had been selling stuff since I was small. Had started companies. The do-gooders in my book was Doctors Without Borders, the Red Cross, SOS Children's Villages, or Save the Children, or what have you. Those were the do-gooders. I was doing business. I wasn't doing evil with business, but I was doing business, and the purpose of business is business and making money. Somewhere in my root, I felt that way. So I was really confused, because if I was going to work at the Red Cross or something, I realized that I'm extremely unpractical. If they would send me into a field trying to do some practical job, I would not help anyone, potentially myself, by feeling that I'm trying to help, but I wouldn't actually manage to help anyone. I would probably ruin for those that are trying to help. I didn't feel that I would function in a large organization. administrative either with politics and so forth. So I felt, okay, so either I do something that feels empty, which I'm good at, or I try to do good, but I will fail doing anything because I'm not good at doing what they're doing. Stuck in life at the age of 29. Newly engaged, I read this book in parallel with my wife, but we read one chapter at a time. I strongly recommend this book. The summary of the book is that your life is about that you should become as happy as possible. That's your mission in life. And it's everybody's mission in life, to try to become as happy as possible. And I haven't become a monk, and I feel sort of very intimidated by trying to speak about Dalai Lama thinking after a monk has done the same. I feel this book is a great book to try to work with your own thoughts. My wife and I, although the chapters were only like 15 pages long, we always saw different things that we took as a message. When I read this book, the message I took actually from this was actually that it's important that you do something. It's important that you do something. And when you do something, do what you're good at, and try to direct the power of that into something meaningful. So suddenly, from having been confused for quite some time, I felt that sign, if I go back, that sign was not correct. I was not on a crossroads where I should either do what I'm good at or I should try to do good. I should try to go straight on doing what I'm good at, but trying to make sure that the maximum output would be good things. There's a little film about the foundation that was mentioned. Maybe I get some help with showing it.
Hur kan du förbättra världen? Det var en gång 4 framgångsrika företagare. De delar en vision om en värld där alla äter sig mätta, alla barn går i skolan och alla får den sjukvård de behöver. Och frågan de ställde sig var om det går att starta och driva företag med ett enda syfte: att göra världen till en bättre plats. Företagarna grundade stiftelsen GoodCause och donerade flera miljoner för att starta de första bolagen God El och God Fond. De bestämde att inga pengar ska tillfalla dem själva. Det som i vanliga företag går till aktieägare måste skänkas till välgörenhet. Inte en del av kakan utan hela kakan. Drömmen var att driva företag utan hungriga ägare och ha Sveriges nöjdaste kunder som alltid får ett riktigt lågt pris och bidrar till en bättre värld. Idag vet vi att God Els kunder ger de mest utsatta en framtid. Fler hungriga människor kan äta sig mätta och fler barn får gå i skolan och fler sjuka får vård. Du som kund väljer vart pengarna ska gå. Det är enkelt att förbättra världen varje dag utan att kosta dig något extra. Jag är själv kund och har dragit mitt strå till stacken genom att skänka logotyperna God El och God Fond. Och jag tycker nämligen att alla borde byta till God El och God Fond. Gå in på www.godel.se och www.godfond.se för att se hur mycket vi tillsammans skapar.
So the idea was basically, I should do what I'm good at. We start companies, and everything that we make in those companies, everything that would go to the owners normally would instead go to charities. Suddenly it felt like a purpose to try to do what I'm good at. Stefan asked me to point out sort of, okay, look at the different stakeholders in a business like this. Clearly for me, suddenly I'm doing what I'm good at, which is I'm working a big time of my life with something that's meaningful. Clearly I'm happy. I have colleagues in these companies, and they also spend a lot of time and energy on their works, and they get paid, but they know that when they do that little extra, it's really meaningful. It's not a shareholder that's making extra money. It's actually someone, a child that gets some food, or someone in need of an ambulance that might get an ambulance. So they're pretty happy. if you look at society, well, first of all, we have the customers. In the case of Google, which is an electricity company, they get this kind of the same electricity that they would have to buy anyway, but they get it at a cheaper price with the best customer service. We have the happiest customers in the industry, and we win tons of brands awards, etc., for doing what we're doing. So they're pretty well off. If you're not a Google customer, maybe you actually, Stockholm is like most cities now in Europe and elsewhere. You see homeless everywhere, right? So might feel good that we're actually working with those organizations trying to help those in the streets. So it's good for those that are not Google customers as well. The business is a mind construction. The business is not an interest. Maybe we should look at the owners. The owners are the only ones that are different, but because there are no owners, there's a foundation owning this. The founders, they had enough money so that they could give 1 million to Doctors Without Borders or something like that. Now they have created, by putting in some energy, skill, helping this venture take off, putting in some money, we can get to a situation where we might give not 1 million to Doctors Without Borders one-off, but actually potentially every year, if we do our job well. But if we look at businesses, my time always goes fast. If I've already used Dalai Lama, do you know this Swedish character, Pippi Longstockings? She's also very wise. So that's when you read the children's books, you should read them carefully because there's messages to us parents, right? She says that if you're strong, you have to be nice. So if I've so far talked about my own journey into this, now we've been going on for 10 years, and I've been able to reflect on what we're doing in relating to the rest of society. And the thing is that those that are strong today are the businesses. In Sweden, at least, we're raised with a sort of feeling that it should be the state that takes care of those that are less fortunate. The businesses should do their business, and then we have a great state, we have politicians, we have NGOs, they can do it. But if you look at the world today, we can quite clearly see that nation states, we look all over Europe for a starter, they are indebted. They're not rich, they're not strong, they're weak, and they're making losses. So we have weak nation states, and we have lots of global issues to work with. And national politicians are not great to solve those because they don't know how to work with each other on a global scale. Businesses, they work all over the world, potentially. I was listening to Airbnb, for example, yesterday, spreading out all over the world in 6 years. That's a tough challenge for United Nations to come up with a similar strategy that actually works. So if you believe that if you're strong, you have to be nice, you realize that business is a large part of the solution. Now we'll see. Maybe you recognize this person. Muhammad Yunus got the Nobel Peace Prize in 2006 for the work with Grameen Bank. He's an economics professor. He argues that we are misinformed already in school. We are taught that the purpose of business is business. We have created a world where we basically only have one type of companies. Profit-maximizing companies that work only for their owners. It looks a bit different, but basically that's the only kind of companies we have. We don't have to reinvent the world, but we have to realize that although we are as individuals, and we said that everybody's life in this room is about making you as happy as possible, so that's egoistic, and companies are egoistic too. They want to make money and so forth. But however, companies could be like humans, not only egoistic, they're also caring and considerate. What would happen if we got more of that? He's arguing all the way out that you should start companies that are sustainable in themselves by not making losses to solve problems. Here in Stockholm, there's an organization where you have homeless people selling magazines. The purpose of that business is not to make money. The purpose is to get those homeless people into an ordinary routine in daily life so that they can feel better again, become more happy. I'm really running out of time. So I would say that we have, just like Muhammad Yunus, we have one kind of companies making up basically all the business community. Muhammad Yunus is arguing for those at one end of the spectrum that should only be started in order to do good. I think the largest potential is in the ordinary companies. When you get into business culture, it's natural to search for do good opportunities, just as it is logical to search for business opportunities. Then you can actually start companies that is only trying to solve a system. And you can do that in a capitalistic model, because sometimes it's so risky, it takes so much money that it can't be done by actually, like I started GoodCause and so forth. I went to people saying, please donate $1 million so I can start a company. If it's successful, you won't get it back either, and most companies fail in the first place. Instead, I can go and raise money for a venture where when it's really successful, they can get their money back, and maybe even with a return. So this is actually, just to round off, we have some crazy things that have been great historically. Just in Sweden, we send 1 billion of those window envelopes. Do you know what I mean with a window envelope? The address is within the window. Yeah, you can't even recycle those. And that's millions of trees around the world that we mow down in order to make this. We start our customer dialogue in the forest, and we drive it out in petrol cars. That would be a great invention. It's been around for 400 years, but now it's past its due date. Let's leave Einstein. What I'm working with now is trying to move everything from the postal mail to a digital solution. We're all walking around with a perfect mailbox in our pockets. However, it's a huge service design challenge to make it work, because we need to simplify people's lives. People need to opt in to getting this solution. And also we need to design the service so that the senders can see not only cost savings, but also improved customer communications. So, since my time is up, my main message is that businesses have a huge role to play. All of your lives, I think, just as my life, is about you becoming as happy as possible. Try to do what you're good at. Obviously, you're here, so you're probably the world's best service designers of the world. Please stay on that track. Don't, unless you work with service design with Doctors Without Borders, stay on service design where you are. Maybe you can help Doctors Without Borders. Maybe you can help companies that are trying to improve the world. Please don't use your talent at the company when you realistically look in the mirror, see that it's not improving the world, because we need to change a lot of things. Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Thank you for staying on time. And
Almost.
that means that we have a few minutes for questions, if anyone has a questions for Stefan. Would you like me to throw the mic out, or do you just want to stand up and ask your question? Let's go for the microphone then. Ready? Almost.
All right. Thanks for a good speech. Just one question. Have you ever considered putting any of those companies onto the stock exchange, and do you think it could ever fly? Even if they're not for profit?
Yeah, the GoodCause companies wouldn't fly on the stock exchange. I don't think. There are ideas. Mohammed Yunus himself likes an idea of a social stock exchange. But since you will never get any money back, and the way you value a share on the stock exchange is how much do you expect to get back over time in dividends. And since I've promised 0, it will be valued at 0. So they won't fly, I think. But there are people like Mohammed Yunus that would like to see a social stock exchange.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else? Yes?
Thank you very much. It was really inspiring, I agree. What was your biggest challenge with GoodCause?
The biggest challenge, where people, experts like you, could probably have helped out a lot in the beginning. The biggest challenge after when we got started was that people didn't believe us because it was too good to be true. So you really say that I get a lower price, you get better service, and you will give everything to charity, and I get to choose which charity. I don't believe that. Now it's been around for 10 years, but in the first couple of years, that was the biggest job. Because when people don't believe something, the simple choice of actually changing an electricity supplier, if you hear it's something fishy, you don't change. So it was a big hurdle that we didn't. And what we did in kind of to actually get out was that we actually recruited our customers face to face. because that was the only way we could figure out that we could actually look someone in the eyes. They could fire off all their questions. But wait a second, what's your salary? Okay, no profits, but there's someone earning something. You don't. I was standing. I've been on the streets myself, meeting. Not saying that I was the founder, and been basically barked at by typically men age 60, saying that they have been their whole lives in business, and there are no businesses like this. And I should understand that. If I'm not, I should go back and ask the questions he asked me to my boss, because I have been fooled. It doesn't exist. So that was a big challenge.
Could I do a follow-up?
Sure.
Or, yeah. You say that you also have the best, like the happiest customers and the best service. Is the lack of demand for profit the key to get the best service to your customers or the happiest customers? Or what would you say is your, like, what's the factors that made you being able to deliver the best service?
I would think it's similar, like if you also heard Mark from Airbnb yesterday. Our customer service, there are people with talent for what they're doing. They really love their work, and they could get work that or other places, but I feel that little extra, when they answer that phone and save that customer, that's 200 krona for another year going to a good cause. So they love the idea, and they love why they're at work, and that's why they give great service. And the customers feel that. I think they feel that there's someone that cares. Our customers, and that happened immediately, actually, even those that actually became customers, they called in, and they still call in, and they say, so I'm with GoodCause. I'm with GoodCause. I'm not a customer of GoodCause. I'm with GoodCause. Yeah, I think I mean, we have customers that that haven't heard the speech and might not know, and they just took it because it was a better price or something. But the core of our customers, they're really sort of fans of what we're doing.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Round of applause for Stefan.